Yeah. Obviously, since the whole Force the Vote episode, when Ryan Grimm pretty notoriously, came out against it on Twitter and did some work to try to dismantle the logic and come after the people involved and all that stuff. It was a mess, if you guys remember. But that's evolved into a full-fledged beef between these two guys, Jimmy Dore, obviously from the Jimmy Dore Show, and Ryan Grimm from The Intercept. And obviously Dore has been kind of coming after and trying to expose The Intercept's kind of shady behind the scenes practices, as we've done here at the Vanguard as well.
There's definitely some Kool-Aid drinking that you got to do at The Intercept.
Yeah, exactly. And I think their coverage of issues like Russia, for example, really illustrates that, or at least Russia Gate.
Or
Syria. Exactly. And I do find it weird that Ryan Grimm is so interested in getting involved in weird Twitter beefs with YouTubers and stuff.
But then
like
he
that.
also will finger wag about it. That's what I think is so. I don't care if you get in fucking Twitter arguments with people. Like, people kind of come at us sometimes and they're like, "Where do you only talk about shit that happens on the internet?" We all live our fucking lives on the internet. Come on, But it's also like I hate it when people want to play the game and then they want to be like, "Yeah, I can't believe that Jimmy Dore did an entire segment on what I said on Twitter." It's like, why did you say it on Twitter if you didn't fucking believe it, asshole? Like, you're a journalist. Your shit is public. Let's go. If anybody wants to make a fucking video calling me and Gavin jagoffs and how we're stupid as fuck, like, you'll never hear us bitch about it and tell that's unprofessional. They call this fucking names. Like, I don't give a shit,
I thought it was interesting because Ryan Grimm is all the talk, but I don't actually see him engaging with someone like Jimmy Dore in a real debate, in a real exchange of ideas.
We're happy to moderate it at the Vanguard if anybody's listening.
That would be glorious. That would be wonderful. And Jimmy Dore, I think, made that same kind of calculation that, like, what's all this talk? Where's the action? Anyway, he got pretty incensed the other night on his program, and I wanted to play this just because, for one, I thought it was hilarious, but also just because I do think it would be interesting to see this happen, and I'd be interesting to see if Ryan Grimm responds to this in any fashion besides just some lame Twitter snipe that he'll never respond to again. Like, why don't you actually want to hash out your ideas? Why don't you actually want to have this discussion with someone who you clearly have just a plethora of strategic, stylistic differences with? And again, you can say whatever you want about Jimmy Dore, and I think there are valid criticisms of him. We've engaged in some of those criticisms on the Vanguard, but you can't say that Jimmy Dore is funded by shadowy billionaires. You can't say that he's on networks propped up by, Clinton cash in the 20 millions, TYT and places like The Intercept, which of course do good work, but that is an undeniable fact about them. So I think that's worth mentioning, that part of the reason why Ryan Grimm might be so salty at Jimmy Dore is because he knows that on an organic, like, meritocratic, system, he would never rise to the same ranks, at least as far as his commentary goes. People don't have that same interest in just.
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe push back and say that I don't know if it's that so much as that he thinks that he thinks that he deserves to have people look to him for commentary and his takes, and he thinks that, whereas somebody like Jimmy Dore doesn't deserve to have it. Like, I think in his heart of hearts, there's some elitism in Ryan Grimm where he's like, "Oh, you haven't gone through all the stages and steps that I've gone through, so you don't deserve to have a voice that's reaching all of these people. Like, you're not credible, etc., etc." And I think that's illustrative of a broader media feeling where these journalists who did kind of, go through all of the shit, go through the muck, play the ball game. And to be fair, I think that when you're playing the ball game, like, Ryan Grimm did a better job than a lot of other people do. He's challenged a lot more than a lot of other people have. I'll give him that credit. He was against the war in Iraq in 2003. It was about, whatever. Right. So he does have good things that he's done in the past, but it's just weird that because there's this rise in popularity and people who are just talking shit and making their own observations and engaging with people and creating a community, like, he feels threatened by that, I think.
What is you just proposing these things do for them? If anything, it's almost worse, because it's like, okay, I know it's possible, but are you going to do anything to actually fight for that, to make it a reality? No, we're just here to propose good things and frame arguments in good ways to these corporate politicians that have been bought off for decades. And they don't support these things because they don't understand it or they need more education. They don't support this shit because they're bought.
That's right.
That's why they're corrupt. And they knew that going in. That's why someone like AOC went to primary Joe Crowley. So they understand this. It's not that they don't understand that, but now they're parading that because they're in this DC bubble now, and they break bread with these people. So they're like seeing the good in these people. There is no good. There's no good in 2021 after a pandemic if you're still denying people healthcare. There's no good. That's evil. And that is real violence. That's state-sanctioned violence. So when you want to start doing something about that, then you can come back to us and tell us you're doing your job.
That's so well put, Justin. When you deny people health care in the middle of a pandemic, as Joe Biden has vowed to do and as the Democrats are doing, that is state-sanctioned violence. That's real violence, not pretend violence like AOC accused me of by using words. And just what do you make of the D.C. bureau chief of The Intercept taking time out of his day to shit on Ryan Knight and to be obsessed with me? Isn't that fucking amazing to you that he would peruse Ryan Knight's Twitter thread and go back to last September to try to shit on him on April 4th? What are you doing?
I mean, who's it for?
Who?
What is this doing?
Who is he? Who is he signaling to?
What causes this? Right. What causes this advancing? Nothing. It's doing nothing.
Nothing.
You're the DC bureau chief. Go to DC and ask the people in DC what the hell they're doing for the people struggling in this country. That's your job.
That's his job.
That's it.
But instead, he's spending his time gaslighting people on the left, activists with no power and no money, and he's punching down and shitting on them. That's what he uses his platform for. And when he's not doing that, he's printing literal press releases from Chuck Schumer's office and calling it a scoop. And then he says, I'm lying about it. And then but he can't point out where the lie is. Although he lives on Twitter. He's on there 24/7. I asked him to point out the lie. Can't point it out. That's how easy it is to own these motherfuckers. It doesn't take anything because I can do it. And by the way, Ryan Grimm, your boring, lying ass is welcome on this show anytime you need a good humiliation. Maybe it helps you come. I don't know. Whatever it is, if you need a good humiliation, come on the Jimmy Dore Show. I'll smoke a bowl, I'll be blazed out of my mind, and I'll run fucking circles around your boring ass. Any day of the week. Of course you won't come on because you're a gutless, nutless fucking wonder. And I'm going to keep exposing you. It ain't stopping. So have a good life.
And people wonder why Jimmy Dore is fucking popular. Like, what the fuck? That was hilarious. And it was an impeccable breakdown of what the fuck is happening. And it was hilarious at the same time. I'm crying a tear of laughter right now. That was really funny. And the thing is that obviously Ryan Grimm would never like debate, and he'll use like some cheap cop out like, I'm not going to engage with this level of low, like infancy or whatever the fuck it is.
Started it essentially.
And it's that whole thing. It's like, I want to pretend that I'm like a highbrow, finger wagging, serious person still live my whole life on Twitter dunking on people that I think are, worthy victims.
And they also make such a great point in that Justin Jackson, I think, made the great point. Like, isn't he supposed to be the DC fucking bureau chief? Why are you spending so much time like engaging in the muck with like YouTubers and podcasters like Ryan Knight, who, again, like, I don't care if you think they're annoying or whatever. They're clearly not the people with power. Again, it's just random people on the internet that happen to have risen through the ranks and actually have gained an audience because people care about what they have to say or like listening to them. Sorry that I guess the same doesn't go for you. Sorry that you don't have an audience.
He does have an audience, though. That's the thing. He has a fat audience.
I mean, yeah, but if he started like a news show, do you think he would get the numbers?
No, but I do think it's fair to say that, like, that's a little bit different than what he is doing, which is being a written journalist.
No, I agree. I'm just saying every platform that you see Ryan Grimm on, he's propped up by a corporation.
Oh, for sure.
Intercept, UIT, even The Hill. If he just started a YouTube channel like the Ryan Grimm Show or whatever, I highly doubt it would get as much engagement. Because again, I don't know. No one really gives a fuck. But
you're right. I mean, he's definitely extremely bland and not very he's better on paper, and if that tells you anything, and people don't like to read that much, so whatever.
Right. And again,
we learned that the hard way of spending 8 fucking months writing a fucking article every week on a blog that nobody listened or nobody read.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I think the main moral of the story for me, and the thing that continually blows my mind about Ryan Grimm, is like, again, why would you, as someone who wants to sell yourself as an objective journalism, whose journalism is for everyone, why are you going to engage in these weird beefs, which are going to further factionalize people that you could be reaching, that now are going to write you off as a hack? And why are you engaging in the muck with self-identifying loudmouth comedians on YouTube, who are, pointing out issues as they see them. Like, why does it fucking matter to you? Don't you have anything better to do? Why aren't you going to DC and talking to these politicians who actually wield some level of
who would
power?
actually let you, right? Like, the reason we talk shit about things is because Ryan Grimm's not going to come on our show and talk to us. He's not going to fucking answer our questions. So we have to speculate. We have to. And plus, we're just two dudes with a fucking podcast. We're not fucking, I don't go around touting myself as, I'm Zach Polston. I'm a serious journalist. I'm the bureau chief of a major fucking, tit sucking organization. And I don't do that shit, right? Because I'm like, I want to fucking talk shit about whatever the fuck. I want to be able to talk about Godzilla on my fucking podcast if it fucking pleases me, right? So, yeah. I mean, 100%. If people want to be like, there's so much hypocrisy, like you guys take shots at people all the time. Yeah, we have a fucking podcast that nobody gives us any money to do. We just do it because it's fun. Like, and we think we talk about important issues. I'm not trying to downplay like the serious stuff that we do. We have interviews that we think are important, but Gavin and I consider the live streams that we do like a hangout session with the people who are interested in these kinds of things too, building a community, having a discussion about, things that are happening, and also calling out the snakes in the fucking grass. That's part of our job. If we could get a fucking sit down meeting with AOC, we would do that instead. I promise. Yeah.
And again, because we understand that, to actually get people to listen to us, we want to frame issues in ways that are entertaining to listen to, not just draw on for fucking 2 hours about shit. Like, you have to have some passion, some emotion, some humor, maybe. Like, these are qualities that people look to when they're going to commentary. We're not Amy fucking Goodman. If you want that style of delivery, then watch that. If you want this, watch this. It's different. There's different kind of content for different kind of people, depending on what you want. There's nothing wrong with that. And that whole elitist finger wagging mentality is such bullshit. And it's why a lot of people, frankly, can't fucking stand the left. So I think that's worth, mentioning too, that it really is
do some introspection, because that's we talk all the time about building broad movements and all that kind of thing, and we want to finger wag all the time whenever anything like actually is working, whenever anything's actually getting popular.
Exactly.
We want to start gatekeeping.
Yeah, and like I said, we've been critical of Jimmy Dore in the past. We're no stands of Tulsi Gabbard, for example, but like, it really does say something about the left that he's as controversial as he is. Like, if you look at the right and look at some of the characters on the right that have massive platforms and popularity and the insidious shit that they're spewing, and then you look at what Jimmy Dore advocates for, which is like freeing Assange, universal healthcare, stuff like that, and the amount of polarization and controversy that surrounds him, especially in elite Twitter circles and stuff, it really gives you a window into the kind of way these people think, into their complete lack of acceptance of ideas that strike them as radical or outside of the mainstream, or outside of the realms of polite civility. It's so ridiculous. And again, I just think it's so indicative of this culture of insufferability, this liberalism of scolds that has emerged as this very profitable and popular tone on the left, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely.
Because again, I don't have any problem with people, releasing a serious critique of Jimmy Dore or Force the Vote, like Ben Burgess did. Like we talked to the dude. He wrote a really reasonable article that, while I disagreed with, he clearly was at least coming from it, not from an emotional perspective of, I want to dunk on this guy who, has pointed out how stupid and wrong I've been over the years, and now it's my turn to, get in on the muck slinging. No, that was what was that?
Oh, so that was Sam Cedar.
Yeah, exactly.